My name's Lena Carter. I'm 32 now, but 3 years ago I was drowning. If you've ever hit rock bottom, the kind where silence echoes louder than sirens, stay with me. This is my story. The one choice I made that saved my life, and left a scar I still trace sometimes. I grew up in a quiet Oregon town, where mornings smelled of wet grass and diesel from the mill. My parents worked double shifts, Mom on assembly lines, Dad at the freight yard. We didn't have much, but laughter filled the house. I went to community college, dreamed of nursing school, until Mom got sick and everything paused. By 29, I was back home, her full-time caregiver, watching hope fade day by day. She passed on a rainy Thursday. Dad followed 6 months later, heart attack, grocery store aisle, right beside the cereal boxes. Grief hollowed me out. Bills stacked up faster than condolences. I sold the house, paid off the medical debts, packed 2 suitcases, and took the cheapest bus to Denver with exactly $312 in my checking account. Jobs were ghosts. I tried cafes, offices, retail, every rejection an echo of overqualified or too late. My tiny studio smelled like stale pizza and panic. I kept the lights dim so I wouldn't see the eviction notice taped to the door. 30 days to vanish. Nights blurred into one another. Mornings came heavy, like dragging stone uphill. That's when I saw it. An ad on Craigslist that didn't look real. Live-in companion for elderly gentlemen. $200 a week. Room and board included. No medical duties, just a kind heart and patience. I reread it 10 times. My hands shook so badly I could barely dial the number. At 8:03 a.m., a calm voice answered, Mr. Alden's residence. Interview Thursday, 10 a.m. Bring ID. Click Thursday came fast. I wore my only blazer, printed my resume at the library, and borrowed bus fare from a friend I hadn't spoken to in months. The address led to Hillside Grove, the kind of neighborhood that looks airbrushed. Iron gates, manicured hedges, houses that whispered old money. My stomach knotted as the butler opened the door. Yes, an actual butler. Miss Carter this way. The library smelled of leather and lemon polish. Mr. Alden sat by the window, silver hair, oxygen tubes, but eyes sharp as frost. We talked for 40 minutes, about books, his late wife, and my mother's favorite novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. When my voice trembled, he just nodded and offered a tissue. Start Monday, he said softly. You'll do fine. That night, I cried for the first time in weeks. Relief more than sorrow. Monday morning, I began a routine that felt like stepping into someone else's life. Wake him at 7, oatmeal with blueberries, pills in a crystal dish. Lunch at noon, soup, sandwich, 2 crackers exactly. Nap at 2, garden walk at 4, dinner at 6, Jeopardy by 7:30. He liked order. I liked the calm. The mansion had 12 bedrooms, a ballroom no one used, and hallways that echoed like cathedrals. My room overlooked a turquoise pool. Salary hit my account every Friday like clockwork. For the first time in months, I bought groceries without counting coins. I even slept through the night. 6 months blurred by. Mr. Alden's mind stayed keen, but his body weakened. He skipped garden walks, preferred long talks by the window. Sometimes he smiled and said, You remind me of someone. I never asked who. Then one Tuesday, as I was dusting the grand piano, he called from the sunroom. Lena, he said, voice steady, you've been a blessing. I have a proposition. My pulse stuttered. He adjusted his glasses, eyes glinting with something unreadable. I miss beauty. Youth, the dance of it, he murmured. Once a week in the evenings, play music. Move for me, nothing improper, just grace and motion. You'll be well compensated, the world tilted. My breath caught. Was he serious? He smiled faintly. Think about it. No pressure. The offer is real. That night I lay awake, ceiling spinning, mind warring between fear and hunger, moral lines and unpaid bills. The next morning, sunlight felt like interrogation. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, his words replayed. The offer is real. By morning, reason and desperation were in a tug of war. My savings were shrinking, rent overdue, and the quiet ache of survival whispered louder than my conscience. 3 days later, I stood outside his study, palms sweating. I knocked. He looked up from a leather-bound book, expression gentle. Yes, Lena? My voice barely came out. I'll do it. He nodded once, almost relieved. Saturday evening, 8 o'clock. Wear something that makes you feel confident. There are no rules, only respect. All week, I felt like a ghost in my own body, serving breakfast, watering plants, dusting shelves lined with first editions. Every clock ticked toward that night. Cook asked if I was unwell. I blamed allergies. The air itself seemed heavier, thick with questions I couldn't answer. Saturday came. I showered longer than usual, shaved my legs, lotioned skin that hadn't felt cared for in months. I slipped into a black dress, knee-length, sleeves to the elbow, zipper down the back. My hair fell in soft waves, perfume barely noticeable. I stared at my reflection and whispered, "You're surviving." The ballroom glowed dimly, chandelier lowered, velvet curtains drawn tight. A record player waited by a marble table. Mr. Alden sat wrapped in a cashmere blanket, oxygen hissing softly. "Whenever you're ready," he said. I pressed play. Swan Lake. The music floated, fragile and haunting. I closed my eyes and began to move, slow at first, letting the rhythm travel through my arms, down my spine, into my fingertips. My shoulders rolled back. My breath steadied. It wasn't about seduction. It was about existing without fear. The zipper whispered as I lowered it, the fabric parting like curtains. The dress slipped to my waist, pooling at my feet. Beneath I wore a simple slip, silk, pale rose, modest. My hands traced invisible patterns in the air, my reflection flickering on the polished floor. When the song ended, silence felt louder than the orchestra. He clapped once, soft, respectful. "Beautiful," he said. "You have a gift, Lena. Thank you." He handed me an envelope. I didn't open it until I was behind my door, heart racing. Inside, $3,600 in crisp bills. I laughed, cried, and shook all at once. That was the beginning. Weeks folded into a strange rhythm. Saturdays became performances. Classical one night, jazz the next. I studied movement online. Grace, posture, the language of light. He never asked for more than a dance. Never crossed a line. Some part of me began to believe this was art, not sin. The staff noticed changes. Cook left pastries outside my door. The nurse smiled knowingly but said nothing. I pretended not to notice the whispers. I paid off debts, bought a used car, even started saving for something I couldn't name. Then one evening Mr. Alden requested the garden. "Under the lights," he said softly. Fairy bulbs glowed across the patio. Moonlight silvered the stones. I danced barefoot, the night air cool on my skin. His eyes glistened. "You remind me of my wife," he whispered. She danced like that, fearless, full of life. My throat tightened. "I'm honored," he smiled faintly. "You've given me a reason to wake up on Saturdays." After that, our bond grew heavier, deeper, somewhere between affection and guilt. I began to wonder what he saw when he looked at me. A muse, a memory, or a mirror of his own loneliness. Months passed. I bought a small condo, keys trembling in my hand. He surprised me with a bonus, $10,000. "For your new home," he said. I tried to smile, but something cracked inside. Gratitude felt tangled with shame. Sometimes while dancing, I'd catch my reflection and not recognize the woman staring back. I told myself it was dignity disguised as performance. But beneath the music, something darker hummed, like the weight of a promise I didn't understand. Then one evening, his grandson Nathan arrived. Sharp suit, sharp eyes, law student precision. He studied me too long at dinner. "What exactly do you do here, Ms. Carter?" My fork paused midair. Caregiving, reading, companionship. He smiled, polite but skeptical. That night, Mr. Alden called me to his study. "No more performances when family visits," he said quietly. "They wouldn't understand." I nodded, relief flooding through me. But inside, I knew things were shifting. His health was failing, and I couldn't tell if what scared me more was losing the money or losing the strange intimacy we'd built. Winter came early that year. Mr. Alden's cough worsened, and the nurse began staying overnight. Saturdays grew quieter. No more music, no more soft applause. I'd still check on him, read aloud from his favorite novels, and sometimes just sit in silence, listening to the slow rhythm of his breathing. One morning, I found him asleep in his chair, sunlight on his face. The record player was turning slowly, no music playing. On the table beside him lay a sealed letter with my name. My heart stilled. Lena, you gave an old man beauty when time had stolen everything else. You never danced for money. You danced to remind me I was still alive. I hope you forgive me for making you part of my selfish need for connection. The enclosed is my final gift, for your freedom, not your past. There was a check, $50,000, and a simple gold bracelet engraved, for grace that healed more than one soul. I didn't cry right away. Grief has its own choreography, slow, unpredictable, cruel. The house felt emptier than ever. His family arrived the next day. Nathan looked different, softer. He approached me while others discussed inheritance. He cared for you, he said quietly. He talked about you like you were hope itself. Weeks later, I attended the small memorial they held in the garden. The fairy lights were still there, dim but glowing. The record player sat near his favorite chair. I pressed play. Swan Lake filled the air. Without thinking, I slipped off my coat, stood barefoot on the cold stone, and began to dance. No audience. No money, no fear. It wasn't for him this time. It was for me. Every turn, every breath was an apology and a release. I felt my shame dissolve into something purer, gratitude. After that day, I left Denver, and moved to Oregon, near the sea. I opened a small dance studio for women who'd lost their rhythm to heartbreak, illness, or circumstance. Our motto was simple: dance, not to be seen, but to feel alive again. Some evenings, when the sun dips low and the studio lights glow gold, I still catch a glimpse of him in memory. The gentle smile, the quiet nod, the sound of applause that never really fades. People sometimes ask why I teach dance instead of performing. I just smile and say, because some stories are meant to be felt, not told. Pause. If you've ever done something you're not proud of, just to survive, I want you to remember, grace doesn't vanish because you stumbled. It waits, it forgives, it transforms, because in the end, every fall is just a chance to learn a new kind of dance.